a few technical challenges getting going with this one, but the content is still great and it'll still be worth it. So without further ado, you're very welcome. This is the How to Make Your Marketing More Strategic, Systematic and Successful in 2023. This is a distillation of the process that we've developed over the last 6 years in digital freelance to secure great results for our clients and to make them more successful. And we normally do this as at the start of a project, one-to-one with our clients, so we're able to really dive in detail into their specific context. What we're going to do, this is an experiment. We're going to do this as a group session, so that I'm going to take you through the process, and then you get a chance to ask questions after the presentation, which will probably take about 40 minutes, but we'll make sure that there is time to ask questions at the end. So yeah, when our strapline, as it were, is, or USP, is small business marketing with guaranteed results. So 6 years ago when we started, we had to figure out how to get results for our clients, and that's what we've been doing ever since. We've now got a system or a structured process to do that. So what we've also sent you is the template that we send out to our prospective clients at the start of a project. So you may want to, if you haven't already, download that and write on it as we go along. Or if you have Adobe Acrobat, you could probably even type into it. But for the moment, I would just write on it. If you write the answers to the questions, or write any notes so you can come back to it later, because some of these aspects probably need a little bit more thought. So that's what we're going to do today. So as I said, we started in 2016. Can you send a link to Chris?
Yeah, no worries.
So we, so sorry, we just had one more person who's trying to get in. So yeah, well, we started 6 years ago. Connie was our first employee. She's now gone on to work in the city to make a fortune, and Ruben was our second employee, or team member, as it were, and he's now traveling in Asia. Our third team member is Zach, who is on this call. He's busy sending messages to people, trying to get the right link to them. So I'm not going to have him introduce himself just yet. I will do that in a moment because he's quite busy doing the moderation. So we'll just get the slides working. So as a head, you're very welcome. And what we're going to do to start with is, if you could just type into the chat a little bit about you. If you could introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and what you want to learn from the webinar, that would be really helpful. It will help me to orient my presentation to what you specifically want to know, and also it'll help it flow better, and also I guess get you in the mode of being in the workshop as well, because I guess you're all busy and probably doing other things as well. Can you all find the, I'm just watching you here, maybe looking around, so do you know where the chat box is on Zoom? You could just nod or do a thumbs up or something, that would be brilliant. Brilliant, okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, awesome. Awesome, so Zach will just read, so you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, perfect.
Mute.
If it isn't it coming out yours though?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Sorry about that. So we've got Sunil. I've said he said, I'm a small-time marketer looking for some more work. That's great.
Brilliant.
And then Ben Masson. Hey all, I'm Ben, founder of Culture Fit Consulting, a professional training and coaching business based in Brighton. Oh nice, another one in Brighton.
I got a Brightonian. Welcome Ben, you're very welcome.
And then Natalie.
And Sunil.
This is Natalie, COO of Wassurance Limited, an insurtech startup in the UK. We joined this webinar because of the topic, wanted to learn more from the speakers.
Brilliant. So you're also very welcome, Natalie. So you're at definitely the right place. We're going to go really in depth into a process that we use to reverse engineer results. It's mainly going to be about B2B marketing using LinkedIn and how to reverse engineer results from using LinkedIn. So without further ado, let's get into the agenda. So as I was saying, it's in the template there are 8 steps. We're covering 5 here in the webinar, so we're going to be moving around a little bit within the template. So I'll guide you through the template as we go along. What we're going to do is cover how to define 3 audiences to test on LinkedIn. We found this works really effectively. When we first started, we just went straight into 1 audience, but definitely testing 3 enabled you to make comparisons between the 3 and choose the one that responds the best to your messaging. Design your test hypothesis. This is a fairly scientific approach to marketing. So we use test hypotheses and we check and we create KPIs that we test against all the way through the process. Get clear on your offer is really important. There's 3 variables basically in any marketing campaign. On a high level, there's audience, offer, and copy. Most marketers that I've come across start with the copy, but really you need to start with the audience, because if you've got the right audience and the right offer, the copy will definitely, it's got a higher probability of working. Step 4 is gather the data to write your copy and design your creative. And step 5, find the recipe for your secret sauce, which is another word for your USP. So that's what we're going to cover. We've got quite a lot of ground to cover. And I was saying we normally do this one-to-one, so first time we've done it in a group. So I'm sure it'll be fine. And you'll get a lot of information that will enable you can take away and reflect and design your marketing campaigns for 2023. Of course, we're also happy to help you if you want our help as well. So the first thing is step 1 on your template, which is called measure your marketing by numbers. This is baselining. This is figuring out what you already have. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to concentrate mainly on LinkedIn. So the first number to write down in measure your marketing by numbers is the number of connections and followers that you have on LinkedIn, personally and on your business page. So you could just write that on the template in the space next to crowd. There's a key distinction here that is new in LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn Creator. If you become a creator, you'll be able to have followers as well as connections. In the old LinkedIn world, it used to just be about building connections, but now you can also attract followers. And to give you a few examples that we looked at recently, potentially a controversial name, but Rishi Sunak has over 1 million followers on LinkedIn. Seth Godin is one of the marketers that I've followed for many years. He has like 250,000. For the purpose of B2B marketing, though, unless you want to become an influencer, we would recommend going for connections, personal connections from your personal profile. But if you become a LinkedIn creator, it enables you to have followers and connections, and it also enables you to do other things like doing live audio on LinkedIn, which is a little bit like Clubhouse. So definitely worth doing. Obviously, LinkedIn is, not to say obviously, we use LinkedIn extensively, but we also have presences on other social media networks. So under measure your marketing by numbers, you could also put the number of connections or followers or whatever they happen to be called on the platform for your other social media connections. The most important question here is how many, because this gives you a baseline from which you're going to work as you build up your connections. I think I mentioned at the beginning, we're working on the process from building a connection all the way to getting paid, which is like the end of your sales process. Or that's how I measure it, if that makes sense, or we measure it. So that's measure your marketing by numbers 1, crowd. Measure your marketing by numbers 2 is called capture. This is once you've built the connections, or even if you didn't get them from LinkedIn, we highly recommend that you have a CRM, a client relationship management system. The number to write in measure your marketing by numbers capture is the number of people in your email system. If they're not in your email system, if you don't have a CRM or MailChimp or some other email system, you almost certainly have lots of email addresses, and they're probably spread. Well, this is what it was like for me before we got a CRM in your Gmail account, on business cards you've collected at various business networking events, emails of existing clients, etc. We recommend getting them all in one place so that you can start to do some email nurture. So the key question to ask is, how frequently are you emailing? The cadence of emails varies a lot depending on the niche. I guess a good rule of thumb is probably once a month would be like the maximum time that I would recommend elapsing before you send some sort of content. We're gonna come back to content further in a moment. And then, have you connected with your email list on LinkedIn? This is highly recommended. You can upload your email list as a CSV file into LinkedIn and send connection requests to people who are in your email list. So that's so step two, measure your marketing by number. Sorry, step one, measure your marketing by numbers. Write down and under capture the number of contacts of email addresses that you have in your CRM or non-CRM if you don't have one. Step three, measure your marketing by numbers. Part three of measure your marketing by numbers is conversion. This is where the rubber hits the road. Have you made any sales yet? So in that box on the template, you can write in how many clients do you have. Subsidiary questions to that are, do you have a sales process? It's really important. Even we tend to call it onboarding rather than sales because it's more of a flow rather than a traditional kind of hard sell. But there needs to be a flow from when you first meet someone on LinkedIn, in this case, all the way through to they become a client. You have a conversation with them. That's part of what this process is designed to do. This is what we use in our business and what we have implemented for many of our clients. And then just a little movement on the template to step six, which is identify the top 5 objections to the sale. So when doing a lot of marketing is educating your prospective client up to the point where you can have a conversation with them, so they already know a fair bit about what you do before you actually get to speak to them. That's one of the main things that you can use social media and email marketing for, and so it's quite important to know what are the reasons that the person that you try to engage with would not want to engage with you. And classic objections are things like price, credibility, the fact that you haven't been in business for very long, or you haven't worked with big clients, or whatever the objections may be. So in step 6, you can write down, sometimes we say 3 to 5, it doesn't have to be 5, but somewhere between 3 and 5, if you write them down, then when you're constructing the copy, you can handle or address those objections as you're going along. So that's measure your marketing by numbers 3. So measure your marketing by numbers 4, we call cash value, which is what is the value of your first transaction with a client, and what is the value of the transactions with that client over the lifetime of your relationship with them. So we break it down using the distinctions that digital marketers make into tripwire, which is the first product that the person is going to pay you, or product or service that the person is going to pay you money for. Our tripwire is what you're doing now, which is a strategy session. So we typically charge 156.25 plus VAT for a strategy session. Core product is the main thing that you sell, or a service or product, and then profit maximizer is a higher price point for someone who wants to engage with you on a deeper level. Lifetime value is how much your client pays with you over the lifetime that you do business with them. This is a little bit more complex, I know, than what I've covered so far. So feel free to put any questions into the chat box, or we can do, or you can ask Q&A at the end. We will unmute your microphone at the end if you wish to talk, or you can type it in chat. It's entirely up to you. Continuity is how long do your clients stay with you on average. We measure ours carefully, and we have two different situations. One is about 6 months, and the other is about 18 months, 1 year to 18 months, depending on the type of business and what they engage with us for. But you can work out how long do they stay with you and how many times do they purchase from you. So if you were an accountant, for example, typically they would buy from you every year to do your financial accounts, for example. For most SaaS businesses, they have some kind of a subscription model where the person pays on a monthly basis. That's also true of a lot of coaching and consulting businesses. So these are the 5 measurements that we take in Measure Your Marketing by Numbers, which is step 1 of our template of the template that we use. Step 6 is identify the top 5 objections, which I also briefly mentioned. So this is a baseline, so you know basically once you've done this what your starting point is. So the next step is to figure out what is your aspiration, where are you aiming to get to? And that is, first of all, you start by defining your audience. So this is step 4. It's called avatar on the template. Basically, in this context, we're getting much more precise and specific, and we're looking at a specific audience in LinkedIn using Sales Navigator. So the first point on the agenda is to define 3 audiences to test. This is how we define those audiences. So the most precise indicator in LinkedIn is job title, for sure. Keywords is the least precise, job title is the most precise. So we would definitely recommend that you identify a job title that would be the ideal person for you to speak to about your proposition or your offer. Secondly, industry, the type of industry that you specialize in is really important. The more targeted that you can make these searches, the higher the connection rate you will get in general, as long as you've chosen the right one. Geography is really important. We typically start with London, sometimes Brighton if it's a local business, or Sussex. Years in current position is a really good indicator. One of the trends that we've noticed at the moment is some businesses try and work predominantly with startups. So if you select founder or owner of a business who's been in a position between 0 and 1 years or 1 to 2 years, most probably they will be a founder of a startup. If it's a scale-up, which is the other trend that we notice, people like to do business with scale-ups, then the years in current position maybe would be 2 to 3 or even 3 to 5. The connection that you have with a person, LinkedIn is a network. So mostly the people who are in your sphere of influence will either be second or third connections or possibly group members. We would recommend starting with second connections because they are much closer to where you are. And then headcount is a good indicator of size of business. So the categories on LinkedIn go from self-employed 1 through 1 to 10, 11 to 50, 51 to 200, all the way up to 10K plus. So you can figure out if you're selling to corporates, you might want to be going for, say, 5K plus employees. If you're selling to SMEs, typically up to 200. If you're selling to self-employed people, if your service is designed for them, then one employee is self-employed. So in Avatar, you can write a little note on the job title that you're looking for, the industry, geography, years in current position, connection, and headcount. Then when you get Sales Navigator, it'll be really easy to find those audiences. If you're doing this manually, then we would recommend starting with a very small audience of maybe 100, because it's going to get difficult to manage very rapidly otherwise to know what messages you've sent. So that is create your audience. So this is where you dig deeper into where you're trying to get to. So this is what we call a test hypothesis, because we're doing it more scientifically. So when we used to use the word goal, but people start to think that that was what was actually going to happen, if that makes sense, i.e. result. But hypothesis is a much better way of thinking about it. and we create hypotheses for which, and these effectively become KPIs that we can use for measurement as we go through, which I'll explain later on. So in terms of the hypothesis that we create a hypothesis on the number of connection requests that we're going to send. The limit on LinkedIn is from one personal account is 100 per week. So we would say we are testing the hypothesis to send 100 connection requests per week. We baseline on a 10% connection rate. We normally get, which is 1 in 10, we normally get between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5, but we baseline on 1 in 10. So we are testing the hypothesis to send 100 connection requests to get 10 new connections every week. We don't, as I think I mentioned earlier, if I haven't, I'm going to say it now, we don't recommend selling to people straight away. It's a really bad idea. It's better to nurture them with nurture the person with content, to demonstrate that your authority, that thought leadership, and that you know what you're talking about before you try and sell to them. So we would specify the number of content nurture touch points. Typically, we send out content every 2 weeks direct to the inbox on LinkedIn. And then the number of conversations leading to a number of appointments, leading to a number of deals. The metrics that we use over a 4 to 6 month project is maximum 4,000 connection requests, leading to, excuse me, 400 first connections, nurture with content every couple of weeks, to 80 conversations leading to 4 appointments, leading to 1 deal. They're the KPIs that we use. You might want to work out for your own business what they are. We reverse engineering that. So our reverse engineering, calculation for that is for a 10K deal, you would pay digital freelance 2.5K, and 4 appointments with a 25% conversion rate would lead to 1 deal worth 10K. Sometimes it can be more or less than that, but that's the basic calculation that we do, and we're reverse engineering. So this is a visual representation of what I've discussed so far. So you go from second or third connection, send a connection request to get to first connection, nurture with blog or case study leading to a conversation, and then booking appointment. Once the person books an appointment, that's when we put them into our CRM and into our sales process, which is part 2 of Measure Your Marketing by Numbers that I talked about earlier. So next step is finding your irresistible offer. This is step 2 on the template, and we use step 5, the statement of value method, in order to determine the transformation that you offer. I mentioned transformational a lot. That's what we specialize in, transformational marketing. The beauty of transformational marketing is that you can tell a beautiful story, and there's an old adage in sales and marketing that facts tell and stories sell. So the statement value method is the way that we identify the transformation that you can provide, so that we can help you to tell your story. We have got it will take me quite a while to explain that. So we have got an earlier webinar that we did, a video of an earlier webinar, which will explain exactly how we use the statement of value method, or how you can. If you want a copy of that video, just put statement of value video, please, in the chat, and we'll make sure that you get it. We also, more recently, have started using value proposition canvases that we learned from one of our clients who's in product marketing or service marketing. And that's another way that you can, that's another method that you can use to develop your proposition and present it visually. Once you've got that piece of work done, you want to articulate the benefits for each step in the process. So the steps in the process that we've identified, and you probably recognize this in the marketing that you've engaged with so far, is appointment or webinar, tripwire, core product or service, and profit maximizer. You would want to identify the benefits of each step for each audience, if that makes sense. Then create a simple pitch deck. And the most important thing of all is everyone wants to scale. I totally get that. However, until you've proven your first conversion, it's extremely difficult to scale. In fact, you can't scale a process that doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense, either from a conversion point of view or from a profit point of view. I have worked with several, or we have worked with several clients who've tried to scale funnels that don't make a profit. And if you lose £1 with 100 visits, then you increase it to 10,000, you can lose £100. So it's not a good model. So that was creating your offer. So the next bit is your copy and creative. So I said at the beginning, audience, offer, creative. So this is the third part. And we broke the creative down into copy and the visual creative. The data that we use to design the stories that are supported by the graphics and the visuals is the Story Brand Framework. We have got that covered in our onboarding webinar, which we did last year. So if you'd like a copy of that information, just type onboarding video into the chat box and we'll send it to you. So we recommend writing the story first, and the story is really key to good marketing. We recommend writing the story first, then selecting the creative to illustrate the story. Don't start with the pictures like, oh, I like that picture, I'm going to use that, and then build the story around the pictures. Do it the other way around. Make sure that it's consistent. So make sure that the whole storyline is just one single narrative that leads to the point where the person that you're marketing to has solved their problem. That's really what this is all about. And we combine photos and graphics to create a nice visual look and feel. So we've got the graphic of the pen up here, and then we've got the lady using the pen to write, or at least a very similar pen, if not the same one. So that's copy and creative. And then secret sauce. Way, this is exciting. This is step 7 of the template. This is defining your USP. The USP for digital freelance, which is small business marketing with guaranteed results, came to me in a dream, and I wrote it down in the next morning. I'm not saying that's the method that you have to use to do this. What I would recommend is don't rush into finding what makes you unique, or say what a lot of our clients have said, oh, there's nothing unique about what we do, which is not true in any way. You just have to dig really deep. Take a bit of time to do this, or obviously we can help you to come up with a USP as well, if you find that helpful. So some key questions to ask are, what makes you unique? What change do you seek to make? This is really important. That this is transformation again. How do you enroll people into the transformation you provide? It's really important to meet the person that you're speaking to at the point that they are at now, rather than where you want to take them to. So rather than orient yourself to goal, it's much better to orient to what they're thinking now, what's the conversation that's going on in their head, and then from there describe the transformation that you make. And then how do you create a network effect, which is how do you get the story to spread? Social media is really, really good for that. And then finally, so once you've been through all these steps, filled out the template, you put a plan together. We're not going to cover that today because obviously that is very unique to each individual business, but we can of course help you to put a plan together if you'd like us to. Once you put the plan together, then you start to run the campaigns and track progress towards success. We use the KPIs that we identified right at the very beginning, and we measure the results every day, weekly and monthly as appropriate. We have meetings with our clients every 2 weeks just to update them on progress and see how they're doing with their part of the campaign. So that's gone through the 5 steps in the process, all the way through to secret sauce and tracking progress. So I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready to make your marketing more strategic, systematic, and successful in 2023? Hopefully by now you have written down some responses in the template that we sent you, and so now would be the time to ask if you think you need our help. If you do, you can book a one-to-one strategy session, which will finish off the process that we've started today. It's normally we charge 156.25 plus VAT for that, as I mentioned. But because this is the first time we've done this and we're like testing it out, and because it's Christmas, I'm happy to do that for you at no additional, no cost, so free. Between now and I think this is the 2nd of December now. So if we say between now and Christmas, if you want to sit down and do that with us, we'll happily do that at no cost.